In an earlier video, we looked at how calculate forms context transition on a calculated column, and what I mean by that is that the normal row context that would exist in a calculated column is transitioned to a filter context, which affects the context of your calculation and can affect the results. We're going to take a slightly deeper look at that and see how that affects calculations that involve related tables. So if we take a quick look at my model, you see we've got a customer table and a transaction table, and there is a relationship between the two on the customer account ref, one-to-many relationship going from customer to transaction. So what I'd like to do is create a calculated column that sums up the net amount from the transaction table, but create this calculated column in the customer table. So I have an example here where I'm saying column sum of transactions in my customer table equals sum of transaction net amount. And if I show that in my visualization, we'll see what happens. What we can see is that the sum of transactions is the same for every single row of my table. And if you think about that, that can be expected because this calculated column is being evaluated under a row context, and the row context has no understanding of any relationship between my customer table and my transaction table. However, if I wrap this sum transaction net amount in a calculate function, so it's exactly the same formula, sum of transaction net amount, but this time I've just wrapped it in the calculate function. Let's see what happens. And now in this case, I get a different amount for each customer account reference. And the reason for that is, as before, calculate is transitioning the row context to a filter context, and the relationships between tables do form part of the filter context. So when I'm on row with account ref 12154, this is driving a filter context for my calculation of that customer account reference, and that filter context is propagating through to the transactions table. That's the way a filter context behaves. So it is then natural that this calculated column that has undergone context transition due to calculate, it is then natural that this should produce the sum of the transaction values for each customer line.